All right, let's dive right in and tackle one of the biggest, most fascinating questions in all of human history. A real puzzle that stretches across every single culture and every era. Why do we believe in gods?
I mean, really think about that for a second. For all of our incredible diversity, different languages, different foods, different ways of life, religious belief is this almost universal feature of being human. What could possibly explain something so powerful, so persistent?
Well, here's the twist. According to a lot of cognitive science, the answer isn't what we usually hear. It's not really about comfort or social control or even some grand evolutionary plan. The idea is that religious belief is an accidental, but kind of inevitable, byproduct of how our minds evolved to work for completely different reasons.
Now, we've all heard the common explanations, right? That religion provides comfort in a scary world, or it helps create tight-knit communities. And look, those things might absolutely be true, but they don't really get to the heart of it. They don't explain why our brains are so good at and so receptive to these supernatural ideas in the first place. To get that, we need to look under the hood at how our minds are actually built.
And this is where the work of a cognitive anthropologist named Pascal Boyer becomes so important. He basically argues that if you want to understand religion, you can't start with the beliefs themselves. You have to start with the architecture of the human mind. Our cognitive wiring is the real starting point.
And that brings us to the core idea of this whole explainer, the cognitive byproduct theory. Put simply, it means our brains didn't evolve for religion. Not at all. They evolved for stuff like finding food, avoiding getting eaten by predators, and figuring out who to trust in our social groups. Religion, from this point of view, is just a side effect that pops up from that pre-existing mental toolkit.
So, you might be asking, how does that actually work? What makes one supernatural idea totally flop while another one spreads like wildfire? Well, Boyer says there's a kind of secret sauce for successful religious concepts, a rule that determines what our brains latch onto and find worth remembering. He calls it minimal counterintuitiveness. Yeah, I know, it's a bit of a mouthful, but the idea behind it is actually super simple. For a concept to stick and spread, it needs to be just weird enough. It has to break one, maybe two of our basic intuitive rules about how the world works, but it has to leave all the other rules in place. And this table just illustrates that sweet spot perfectly. Let's walk through it. A tree that grows leaves? Well, that's just a tree. It's totally intuitive and it's boring. Your brain doesn't waste any energy remembering it. On the other end, you have a tree that is also a prime number. That's just, what? It's incoherent nonsense. It's too weird and our minds just can't get a grip on it. But a tree that talks? Now that hits the sweet spot. It violates our intuitive biology just a tiny bit, which makes it surprising, fascinating, and super easy to remember and tell someone else. This right here is the zone where most successful gods and spirits live.
So let's keep building on that. Minimal counterintuitiveness explains why certain ideas are so sticky, but what mental tools are they actually sticking to? Well, Boyer points to a bunch of default settings in our brain. You could call it our built-in survival software.
Think about it. Your mind comes preloaded with specialized programs. You have an intuitive physics. You just know a rock can't pass through a wall. You have an intuitive biology. You know dogs have puppies, not kittens. And most importantly for our story, you have systems that are constantly looking for other minds out there in the world.
And this is a brilliant way to think about the most important one for religion, the agency detection system. It really is like a smoke detector that's been deliberately set to be extra sensitive. Why? Well, for our ancestors on the savannah, hearing a rustle in the grass and thinking predator when it was just the wind, that's a harmless mistake. But thinking it was just the wind when it was actually a predator, that's a fatal error. So our brains evolved to be biased, to assume that something with a mind, an agent, is causing any ambiguous event.
So here's the crucial takeaway from that. This predisposition makes our minds incredibly fertile ground for believing in unseen agents. A sudden gust of wind, a weird shadow in the corner of your eye, a surprising stroke of good luck. Our brain's default setting isn't to ask, what did that? It's to ask, who did that? And that just throws the door wide open for spirits, ancestors, and gods who act with purpose in our world.
Okay, so we've got memorable concepts and a brain that's wired to see unseen agents everywhere. But how does that connect to the really complex stuff we see in religion, like morality and rituals? Well, according to Boyer, religion doesn't create these things, it piggybacks on them.
Take morality, for instance. This theory suggests that we have evolved moral intuitions, a basic sense of fairness, of loyalty, of not harming others, that exists completely separate from religion. What religion does so brilliantly is connect these natural gut feelings to those all-knowing supernatural agents our minds so easily create. And suddenly you have a cosmic, invisible witness to all your actions, which is an incredibly powerful way to reinforce social rules.
And rituals? Oh man, they are way more than just social get-togethers. Cognitively speaking, they are absolute power tools. All that repetition, the emotional intensity, the very specific, often strange actions, all of it works to make abstract beliefs feel completely real. A ritual takes a simple, kind of weird idea like an invisible spirit, and it hammers that idea into your memory using powerful sensory experiences. It transforms a concept into a profound, tangible reality.
So let's pull all of these different threads together now. What does this cognitive perspective really tell us about why we believe? It tells us that religion isn't something strange or foreign that got added on to human nature somewhere along the way. Nope, it's something that grows out of our nature, naturally.
So the really crucial points to walk away with are these. Belief isn't so much a conscious choice as it is a consequence of how our brains are built. The supernatural ideas that succeed around the world all tend to hit that just weird enough sweet spot for memorability. Our overactive agency detection system is constantly looking for minds and intentions behind the scenes. And all the powerful social stuff, like morality and ritual, they work so well because they tap directly into these deep-seated cognitive habits. Ultimately, this whole theory suggests that religious belief is a pretty amazing testament to the peculiar, creative ways our survival-focused minds try to make sense of the world. And it leaves us with one final, really fascinating question to think about. If our minds are natural God factories, built from parts that were designed for other things, what other illusions might they be building that we just take for granted as reality?